I don't know about you, but when I hear the phrase your best life, one of the things that comes to my mind is living a healthy life. And that's why we have so many videos on here in regards to nutrition. But that's not all there is to it. If you think about it, you could have optimal health. You could be in the best physical shape possible. But if you don't have healthy relationships in your life, if you don't have healthy relationships within your family, it kind of loses something along the way, right? So on today's episode of Your Best Life, I have the most endearing woman for you to hear from. She is a good friend of mine from years back, and I can't wait for you to see what she has developed and using her own family as the guinea pig, but now she's broadening her reach and teaching these concepts to other people so that you can develop healthy relationships all around the kitchen table. Stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of Your Best Life. I'm your host and healthy living correspondent, Beth Schomp. Isn't it fun when life pretty much takes you full circle? Well, that happened to me recently when I reconnected with a dear friend that I hadn't talked to in ages. I reconnected with Kay Woodward a few days ago, and Kay and I used to work together. And we worked together for many, many years. But over 20 years ago, I went into a different direction so I could help women, educate women in different topics on health and wellness. And eventually, Kay went into a different direction where she has been able to help women through her ministry. And so when Kay and I were getting reconnected and caught up, what was so beautiful to me, and I know for Kay, is that it felt like we had just talked a few days prior. We just picked up where we left off. And don't you just love that when that happens? And that's really so relevant to our topic matter today. Kay and I have a lot in common. We've both been married to the same spouse for over 40 years. Our children are grown. We are obsessed with spending time with our grandchildren, and we both love Jesus. Well, what Kay has done, Kay has started her own podcast. It's called Table Talks, and she discusses different topics that are so relevant today. And she's also, in conjunction with this, she has now published a wonderful, beautiful cookbook. I can't wait to get mine. And I invited her to be on this show today because you'll see how what she is doing is so relevant to you and I in living our best life with purpose and with intention. So, Kay, welcome so much. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, everything you said, it felt like that 20 years had not passed, and it was just so good to hear your voice. And I'm excited to be on your podcast.
Good. I'm so glad that you're here. So let's talk about the table. Tell me the inspiration behind that, because I know you have a story there.
Well, my husband and I, you mentioned, we've been married over 40 years, also 43 years, and we have 3 grown sons. Now, our oldest is 40, and we have 9 grandchildren that range from 3 years old to 20 years old. So it's we have a full family and a full life. But when our sons were younger, you can control when your kids are in elementary and middle school, when they come to the table to eat, we're all going to eat together. But when our sons started getting in high school and started to drive, we felt that we were losing that connection. And so we had family dinners where people skirted in and skirted out. But about that time, really about 25 years ago, we decided to take and have a family dinner night to really designate one night a week that no matter what, we would have time together around the table. And we watched the benefits of that over these last 25 years, what the table, being around the table did for our family. So over those years, you can't raise that many kids and not collect data and information and life experiences. And also on top of that, recipes. My husband said, you have recipes everywhere. They were on envelopes and index cards and box tops and other cookbooks and everything. And so they were all in my cabinet. And he said, you ought to write a cookbook. And anyway, several years ago. And I thought, really, there are a lot of cookbooks and I just don't have time and I don't know if I want to do it. But anyway, so last year, besides the fact that my recipes were unorganized, I really felt strongly in my heart that the Lord spoke, and it, not out loud to me, but really impressed on me. You need to do this. And in the cookbook, include your story, your feelings, your teaching on the table, and see if this cookbook can be an avenue to help families, busy families and families in this day and age to be able to want to reconnect around the table.
Right. I think that's awesome. My two daughters who are in their 30s now and they have families of their own, we're so proud of them because they're so well balanced. They're highly accomplished. They're wonderful, strong, beautiful women that are living lives with purpose and intention. But my oldest daughter, she said, the one regret, if I can use that word, was that in her raising, she really didn't remember us really having that regular family meal. We were very much the family on the go, and they were busy with all their activities and their achievements. And, it was one of those things that I look back and I think, what, she's right. Our family is fabulous, but we probably could have done it a little bit better and backed off on some of those achievements and dedicated more time around the table. And, and I'm really proud of her because that's exactly what she's doing with her young family. So let's talk about the practical benefits of the table. Tell me, the time that you spend around the table. Let's talk about the practical benefits of that.
Well, I even did a little more research even this week. So I researched for the cookbook and the background for that about a year and a half ago. But I read this week that 10% of families never eat dinner together. 10%. Wow. That's never is a strong. Never. And it said 40% have some meal together 3 times a week. So that could be breakfast or, lunch or dinner, but that's still, says a lot about our society. And then it said 88% of parents wish they could have dinner together more often with their family. So, hopefully this podcast will inspire someone and a lot of someones to want to do that. So the benefits. So, I felt this all along, all the 25 years, but as I researched for that cookbook, I saw it in written form. I was able to see, read and hear statistics that are really out there by authors that some are people of faith and some were not. So it's not just faith people that, think that family dinner is good. So it's benefits. It builds confidence for the family, for parents, but we're talking children a lot right here. For any age children, it builds confidence, their self-esteem. It builds, it promotes better communication. One of the studies talked about toddlers and the ability for their vocabulary to increase. It just shoots up when they have had meals around the table. We know, because they hear their parents talk, especially those firstborns who don't have older siblings that are constantly rattling away. So their communication skills, lower risk of substance abuse, and they eat healthier because you have control of what your family's eating. So you can pick the diet and, less stress and anxiety. One of the stories my son told on the first episode of my podcast was he has a teenage daughter who's now 20. But when she was 14, 15, 16, it was a real struggle. She went through so much in her life, several years of rebellion and not wanting to be around her family or anyone, actually. But what was interesting is we have that set night every Monday night. If I'm in town, every Monday night, our family gets together. And one night a weekend, they had dinner. And what my son Dustin said is, he noticed over the years, even though she wouldn't want to come, you know why? Because she didn't want to look us eye to eye at the table.
Right.
As a teenager that's struggling, she didn't want that connection. But what that connection did over week after week after week and month, it began to break down barriers. And it's a critical thing for us to be eye to eye with our children and our teenagers, because the Word of God says the Bible is the eyes are the window to our soul. You can look in someone's eyes and you just know, especially your child or your sibling or your spouse. And so time around the table is critical for our families. And it promotes quality time and bonding, even when a child doesn't think they want to bond. We're the parents, so we do that.
Hi, sorry for interrupting the show. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about one of my passions other than hosting this show. I belong to an exclusive wellness shopping club, and I've done so for over 20 years. I trust them with my health and my family's health. This club provides US-made, safe, affordable health, household, beauty products, things that we use every single day. Anyway, I'll let you get back to the show, but if you have any questions about joining, I provided info below. Bye. I think it's an opportunity to teach so many great life skills too.
Yes.
You know, from the area of, you mentioned about you eat healthier. So it's this opportunity to be able to teach our children about healthy habits and portion control. And I mean, you know, it just kind of naturally does that. But then these children, they might want to help mommy cook. And, you know, with a son or a daughter, teaching them these life skills, being around the kitchen and eventually around the table. But yes, the communication skills, this like you said, the self-confidence. My first thought also was with the teenagers in terms of there's such a wonky time for them that they don't know that they need their family until they're in that stage. So I think that's so fabulous. All right, but there's also some spiritual benefits to being around the table.
So, you know, before people think, don't get in your mind that it's a Pinterest moment at our house every week, because although the food is great, I feel like I say this in one of my talks, it's not about the food, but it is about the food. So I work really hard on Mondays. I plan that menu 4 or 5 days before. I prep for it. I pick favorites. That's not the time for me as a grandma. So I'm the grandma now. So I'm not the parent that has to introduce kale or whatever, but I can have the things they love when I cook. And so, you know, it's fun because my teenage grandkids will text me from school now and say, KK, what are we having tonight? What's for dessert? Because I do a dessert every Monday. We don't eat that like this. We don't eat this way the other 6 nights. We have the one fun treat night.
Sure.
Great dessert from scratch and all the trouble. But so it's not a Pinterest moment, but it is. I feel like every time we gather is a spiritual moment because, you know, something we started this year. So you're talking spiritually around the table. I felt like we were kind of lagging in that area. We come in, there's, you know, before my son moved to DC with his younger kids, there were 17 of us around the table. And we had a table especially built for all 17 that we could be together. And it's loud, it's obnoxious. And I wanted more for us spiritually. You know, we weren't going to have a Bible study at the table because can you imagine the teenage grandkids like, are you kidding me? But this year we started a gratitude jar, and I've heard people talk about it and I just never did it. So I got it picked up at Target with a really big glass jar, and I ordered the little decals from Etsy, and they say gratitude jar. And I thought, okay, this is going to be, the little kids are going to love it. The adults will be okay, and the teenagers are going to think, oh my gosh, what's she doing now? But you know what? The kids, they ask me if I forget. They say, KK, where's the jar? They want to write in the jar. So each person, we go around the table, we have pre-cut pieces of paper because I'm like that. I don't want to tear up. I need it to match. Sure. And so they write on their paper and they sign it with the date. And my goal is at the end of this year that we will bring those out at our New Year's Day dinner and read these blessings in our lives, because I feel like, you know, the table is really where we teach values and traditions, and we pass down, you know, what we know spiritually. You know, we can say we can tell kids all day, this is what you ought to believe and this is how I believe. But when we're at the table, we can practice that. And we tell stories. Like, both of my parents are deceased now, and my husband's dad is. And I make it a point every table time to talk about the memories of Mimi and Papa and Grandpa. And we tell their stories. And I have every intention of keeping their memory alive in the hearts of these children and the ones that never met them. And so we pass down what we believe, in our hearts about Jesus. And we pass down traditions of our family and around that table. And so I feel like the table becomes a place. We're not like singing worship songs around the table, but we're worshiping because we give thanks to God. We give thanks for the meal. We have gratitude. We remember all He's done for us. How could we sit there, me, with 17 people around a table and not have a heart full of gratitude and full of thanks to, our Heavenly Father?
And that love just is going to grow and grow and grow among all the family members. I think that you mentioned about keeping your parents' memory alive in this cookbook. You have a lot of your mom's recipes in there, right? Yeah. I think that's so.
And so a lot of the recipes in the cookbook, I tell a story. So there'll be a little box, a darker color box. And in that box, if there's a story, a special story, I tell the story in the cookbook about that recipe. And then, I can't think of the word. I gave credit. What's that word I want to say? Acknowledgement, but dedication.
Yeah.
Dedication. I dedicated it to my mom and my mother-in-law because I couldn't even boil. I didn't know how to make iced tea. And how can you be from Mobile, Alabama, and not know how to make sweet tea when you get married? I was 19.
That's life skills I'm talking about. Is tea?
I didn't know how. Mm-hmm. And so, I couldn't cook. No one wanted to eat my food. And honestly, I'm a great cook now. This sounds it sounds very like I'm bragging and very narcissistic. I don't mean it that way, but my food is really good. And people ask me, they want to come eat. I just have fun. It's I'm an acts of service. My love language is acts of service. So this is my gift to people.
Show us the cookbook. Show us the cookbook.
Okay. It's called The Table. And it's, I don't know how it shows there, but it says the byline is The Place Where Life Happens. It's beautiful hardback cookbook. I think it's so gorgeous. And it's got a beautiful foreword. All of my adult sons and their wives wrote in the book in the beginning. And I didn't see it until it launched, what they wrote. My husband wrote, which it's so special to me, but the foreword and everything in it. So it's kind of fun because the inside page and the outside page have family pictures. I am, like you said, I'm obsessed with my family. I'm obsessed with my grandkids. I feel like that as a grandparent, our job is so different and we don't have the day-to-day grind with the kids. So we can actually, live out a different calling than a parent has. So it's all, it's all comes together to me. The table, the cookbook, food.
I think I love that bit about your photos because it's your way of inviting us in a way to be a part of your family. Yes. But also I think what you've done, probably not intentionally, but you are modeling how to raise a family. That's what you're doing. And I love that because when we talk about living your best life, yes, we can eat healthy, we can take the right supplements, we can do yoga, we can go play tennis, we can do all these activities. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a healthy family to share our lives with, then what's the point? And so
right?
I adore everything that you've done with this. Okay, so last question.
Okay.
In today's world, you have so many busy families. They're just they feel like they don't have time to turn around with mom and dad and the kids and all this other, and they're stressed. So they need this. But do you have some tips on or strategies on how we can make this work for a really busy family?
I'm so glad that you asked that because, even just if I look at our own family, how busy they are. And you mentioned your girls, and now you've got grandkids, and everybody's married now, and it's just, they live away. It's just kind of a crazy life. But I really want to just take the pressure off from the very beginning for whoever's watching. Maybe, you have young children, maybe they're, teenagers, or whatever season you're in. First of all, release the idea of perfection. Just let it go, because I got it in my head that everybody's house always had the most beautiful setting for every dinner, and everything was perfect. And we made a decision in our family on Monday nights, because the daughters-in-law help do all the dishes now at the end, and the grandkids help. They all voted. They didn't want a place setting. They said, get some good Chinette plates. We just want to throw them in the trash, and they don't mind if they dip their food out of the pot, because we would rather spend time at the table than having to do all the dishes. And we've offered to let them go home and we would do the dishes, but they don't want to do that anymore. So we had to let that go. And the idea that I had to have an Instagram moment, an Instagram worthy picture every meal that I made, because if I really want to practice what I'm saying, right, I believe time at the table is what's important. So you might also be saying, well, I have little kids and they eat on the run. They graze. My little grandkids, they graze. They sit for a minute. So I'm just saying, if you have 5 minutes with 2- and 3-year-old toddlers, and you can get them to sit for just a few minutes, and even try the whole gratitude thing with them, like an activity at the table. Say, Carson, what are you thankful for today? What's something good that happened at school today? Or my little grandson that's 3, Archie, what was fun today? Anything to get them to sit for a moment and have a conversation, because that's going to build over the years.
Absolutely. Right? Well, but you're talking to them on their level.
Yes.
And now they feel important. And you're right. It's going to continue to grow over time.
If you have small children, the decibel level is a lot higher. Our family looks different now because our youngest son and his 3 kids and wife moved to DC. So it's a little less chaotic because the youngest ones are moved away. But I use on Monday night, I have the luxury now that I'm semi-retired, I'm older. I have time on Monday. I can kind of cook all day and I can do more complicated recipes. But my advice, if you're busy, find who's ever cookbook. But I have also very simple recipes in my cookbook that you can cook in your, crock pot or the air fryer now or whatever. And I prep always. I prep the day before. I prep the afternoon before, so I'm not stressed out the day of. So a little planning. I get the casserole. I'm Casserole, Alabama, but I'll get it ready on Sunday afternoon and put it in the fridge, and it's easier for me on Monday. Also, schedule the time. The time will not just magically appear in your life. So pick a night, and literally, we are religious about our Monday night. My husband has been a pastor for years. My sons are pastors, 2 of them. And the church tries to take my Monday night. I'm like, no. I mean, we have really big church. And I'm like, there's like 3 women's events a year on Monday. I'm like, okay, but that's it. I say, our family doesn't come on Monday. We have family dinner. So schedule the time, make it work around your schedule, because I understand some of those years with sports, but prioritize time for the table, even just one night a week. Put your devices down. I don't care. Your little children don't need their tablet at the table, not the first few minutes. And your teenage kids and your grown kids, just turn your phone over and let it go for 15 or 20 minutes. It's not the end of the world, right? And then consistency will make it easier, right? Everything you do that you do repetitively becomes a habit. It's not just an event. So the habit of family dinner time around the table really has consistency will help that. But you can't be consistent unless you do it the first time. So you do it once and then you do it twice. And then now that our kids are older, our grandkids, we have that activity. We have the gratitude jar. There are games you can play at the table after you eat. We try to make the table fun. And I just want to get this in real quick so that people don't think it's perfect. One thing my husband and I decided when our children were teenagers, that the table would be a place of healing, a place to be seen and heard for our kids, a place to belong, because the kitchen table is truly the soul of the home. And we would not use the table for correction or discipline. We don't talk grades at the table. We don't talk, they missed a curfew when they were teenagers. It's a safe place.
Safe place.
So we have fun at the table. And I encourage you, make that table so that no one has PTSD about the table. Make it fun, a place where they can share and heal and be heard. And you can do discipline. You can do all that, but not there, not at the table.
Such great information. I just think this is totally in alignment with the whole concept of living your best life. So first of all, Kay, I want to thank you for being on our show today. I know that there's going to be people that are watching this that are going to say, I want that cookbook. I want to listen to her podcast. I have questions for her. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Really, the easiest way, I have a very basic, easy website. It's kwoodward.com, and you'll be able to spell my name. It'll be listed with this.
We'll put the credentials in the notes below.
kwoodward.com, and then you can get the cookbook there. You can see the podcast there. I've only done several so far, but I have about 20 fun 1-minute video cooking hacks on there. They're really fun.
I saw those. Those are awesome.
Commercials, and I had really a lot of fun with those. So it's growing, but I think that you would really enjoy just going to visit the website, kwoodward.com.
That's fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching our show today. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to email me directly at yourbestlife9@gmail.com. If you would, please like this video. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, be happy and be healthy.